Sit down if you want to.
Right in the middle of what's going on.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation.
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
The middle children of history, man.
Middle of the day, Alfred.
Please, take a seat there.
Right now, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Stop the middle, it's a basic!
Meeting in the middle.
Like.
They fought for the freedom of
The middle of
The middle of a war! This is friggin' ridiculous!
Why don't we have a seat and talk it over?
No! Not the middle seat!
Hello, everybody. We're the Middle Seats Podcast, the best seat in the house for all things movies and entertainment. I'm Andrew J., your host, and I'm joined, of course, as always, by Nate Lungarini and Jake Hensler. This week, we are reviewing Us, Jordan Peele's latest. We're going to discuss the film, then give our ratings, then jump into our spoilers section. It's a very in-depth dive into this review. If you want to jump to those different parts of the show, please look down in the time codes below. We'd love for you to join us for the whole discussion, but we understand some of you don't want the movie spoiled, so do whatever you need to do. Here's a snippet of the trailer for Jordan Peele's Us.
Can't believe how big they've got.
Did you hear Gabe got a boat?
Where's Jason?
Jason?
Where were you? There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors.
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
What are you people?
It's us.
They look exactly like us. They think like us. They won't stop until they kill us.
Be careful.
That was the trailer for Us. It's the second film made by Academy Award-winning Jordan Peele, who, of course, he broke into the scene with 2017's Get Out, which, of course, won him the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. The movie was nominated for Best Picture. It, more than tripled its budget at the box office. It was a huge hit, and he's returned with a highly anticipated follow-up. This follow-up follows a family of four who are traveling to their beach house in Santa Cruz, California. There's the dorky dad joke-spitting Gabe Wilson, played by Winston Duke of M'Baku from Black Panther fame. His reserved by tender wife Adelaide, who of course is played by his Black Panther co-star and another Academy Award winner, Lupita Nyong'o. They have a track star teenage daughter Zora, played by Shahadi Wright Joseph, and a gorilla mask-wearing son Jason, played by Evan Alex. Adelaide is uneasy about the trip for reasons better left unknown as we build the suspense of the movie. Her suspicions are confirmed correct in ways that are probably worse than she ever imagined. In the middle of the night, they are ambushed by four intruders, red jumpsuit doppelganger for each member of the family, staring them back in the face. They clearly want to hurt them. We don't know why, but we just know that the Wilsons need to survive and figure out what the hell is going on. And guys, that was a lot of people's reactions leaving Get Out. What the hell? That was so good. That was awesome. And also, what the hell? That was really messed up. So a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what Jordan Peele has next in store. Of course, we have been, ever since they announced this project, ever since they announced who's going to be acting in it. When the trailer dropped on Christmas, it was probably the best Christmas gift I got this year. Does it deliver? Jake Hensler, what do you think of Us?
Truthfully, I think this movie is a bit tricky to talk about without spoilers because a lot of the most fascinating parts are spoilers. But I will say, yeah, I think this movie delivered. I think it's pretty much comparable to Get Out. Borderline loving it. I think it's a great follow-up to Get Out. And I think Peele is absolutely cementing himself as one of the better, not only filmmakers, but original filmmakers working today. He is just a natural for suspense and mystery and thrill and good stuff that you want to see in a scary movie. Not that this was so scary in my opinion, but it was definitely suspenseful, interesting, mysterious. Not quite a complete movie. I can't quite pinpoint it. Something about Get Out feels a little more put together, a little more complete. But the finale of Us, what he tries to get at and what I think he personally accomplishes, the more I sit with it, the more I'm enjoying it. And I think I will very much enjoy this on rewatches as well. I'm very curious to see how it holds up and honestly what he does next. I really, really enjoyed myself with this movie.
Right. And Jake brings up a good point about, it's hard to talk about without spoiling this movie. We want to kind of make things clear to our audience here. We're going to have to be pretty vague about this because there are so many different surprises layered throughout this that we do not want to give anything away. So we probably won't be going into much more detail than what I just said in the plot synopsis. Having said that, Nate, what do you think of Us?
Can I just make a request? Stop making all these critically acclaimed horror movies so I can stop reviewing them.
We're in a weird golden age of horror where Nate can't even escape.
I'm so happy about it.
I'm going to let you guys in on my horror watching strategy, if you will. Because I am such a wuss. I get so worked up going to see these movies. I usually get maybe one snack if I'm feeling it for the movie theater. When I do horror movies, I have to have an entire buffet counter of
smorgasbord.
Snacks. One has to be spicy, so that way I can remember that I am a real person in a movie theater. And this is the worst pain that I'm going to experience watching this movie is eating something spicy. One is sweet to calm me down, so it just keeps going and lasts me through the movie.
I love you.
I cannot get through a horror movie by myself.
I love you.
That spicy thing is crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. I love quirks like that about people. That's so good.
So if anybody is on the fence, really liked Get Out like I did, this movie definitely is still worth your time. It's a good film, but it is much more horror oriented than Get Out was. Get Out definitely leaned more thriller than horror.
Yeah.
The first 30, 45 minutes of this movie was pretty rough for me to get to. There are a lot of scares, not a lot of jump scares, but just a lot of scares. And it's the kind of stuff that, I need a nightlight for. But again, I'm a wuss. More cultured horror fans are definitely going to have an easier time than me. In terms of the actual movie itself, phenomenal performances, especially Lupita Nyong'o. She slays this movie.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing work. Winston Duke took me by surprise. You get a sense of who his character is from the trailers, but he's not the kind of character that gets old after a while either. The kids do really, really well too. If anything, they're a little quieter, but that just kind of comes with the field that these characters need to navigate to try to survive this movie. Yeah, Peele delivers. He is a really unique mind, and he's creating some really cool original stories that we have not seen before.
I think as nuanced as moviegoers as we are, we go to a lot of movies, we watch a lot of movies, even if it's just in the comfort of our own home. I think it's probably safe to say that for maybe 85% of them, we kind of have an idea of our thoughts on the movie within an hour or two. Am I wrong in saying that, guys? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have a general sense of what we think about it and how much we like it. There's that other 15% that make this job so fun. You know what I mean? Those are the movies that are the challenging ones. It's the ones where you have to think a long time, and sometimes you even decide that you don't like it. And that's okay. That's what makes cinema really interesting beyond the obvious entertainment impact. Kind of Jake alluded to this earlier, and I agree with him on this. Get Out has an immediate satisfaction walking out of it. Because you understand the allegory that he's trying to go for there, the African-American's nightmare in that situation, it's pretty obvious. It's overt, on purpose. You're supposed to understand that this is a metaphor for racism. It's more of a punch in the gut right off the bat. And it's a really entertaining, great classic, probably future classic movie because of that. Us takes a little bit more time to understand what he's trying to do. And that's not a bad thing. Even if that's not all landing right away, this movie's extremely entertaining because it's clear how smart Jordan Peele is as a filmmaker, how in touch he is both with society and with pop culture, and how he weaves that all together. This movie mixes influences like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I never thought I would say the sentences Invasions of the Body Snatchers and National Lampoon's Vacation in the same sentence, but Nate, you took the word smorgasbord out of my mouth because in a different context, in a much different context.
Very.
It's a smorgasbord of all these different pop culture cues and references mixed together with something really disturbing and frightening and insidious to say about our society and us as people. And that kind of intellectual thinking with filmmaking is what makes Jordan Peele so special. It's not just the fact that he can balance horror and comedy. He makes you sit down and think for several days afterwards. So I don't know if I would say that I adore Us, but I really, 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 really like it. I think I like Get Out a little bit more. I've seen Us twice now.
Jesus.
There are minor bones to pick with it that I didn't have as much with Get Out. There are little small things throughout that I just could nitpick with Us that kind of puts it a little bit below where that film was. But man, it is another excellent genre-based societal horror fright fest. It's just great.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how this came out.
Yes, me too.
Truthfully.
There's always the talk of the sophomore slump, and he's nowhere near it.
Completely missed it.
Completely firing on all cylinders here. And again, like you guys said, getting great performances out of his actors. Like Lupita, holy crap. Like Lupita Nyong'o, she already won an Oscar, so she had nothing to prove to any of us. But even so, she crafts two possibly classic characters in this thing.
Like exactly. She's two characters, but they're completely different characters.
And they're both great. It's unbelievable. If Kaluuya can get nominated for Get Out, which I was fine with, she should absolutely be nominated for this. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I thought she was outstanding.
Yeah. Winston Duke, he's kind of filling the Lil Rel Howery audience surrogate mode at a lot of points, but there's more to his character than that.
He's not too in-your-face dad jokey, but he's just a good balance of it. With also like, oh my god, my family's in trouble.
Right, and the jokes aren't in like too inappropriate places. Like when he needs to be scared, he's scared. You know what I mean? It's not like
absolutely.
We kind of gripe the Marvel movies sometimes with that, where they kind of put jokes in inappropriate places just for the sake of a joke. This movie knows when to be scary and when to be funny. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I can't wait to revisit this movie. It's because Us is not as obvious. Like I went with a group of about 9 people, and a few of us got it, a few of us didn't, and we all had a pretty decent conversation on what we thought Peele was getting at and what actually happened and what this meant and all the mind games and psychological elements to it. And I had a ball, honestly, just talking about it. Talking about it now, I'm so excited to keep talking about this.
Having seen it twice, like I said, this is a movie that should be mandatory. I'm sorry, Nate. You're going to have to sit down and watch this again. I'm sorry.
I know.
Jake and I had a discussion, and he got to places that I didn't get to the first time. And that's okay, because then I went back with that knowledge, and I've got a lot of those symbolic things to talk about in spoilers.
Oh, yeah. That's why, like, basically all spoilers.
Right, so let's just go there now. We're going to get into our ratings first for Us. If we think a movie is absolutely perfect, has no flaws, we give it a royal throne. If we think a movie's really, really great but has a couple of minor things we'd like to change, we give it a plush recliner. If a movie is awesome but has like some pretty fatal flaws in it, like more of a mixed bag, we give it a wooden seat. If a movie's not awesome but it has a couple of good things, we give it a damp lawn chair. And if a movie is completely awful with no redeeming qualities, we give it a sleazy outhouse. And if we think a movie should be seen in the theaters with an audience, we give it a little bag of popcorn moniker or a smorgasbord of popcorn for some of us. Yeah. So, Mr. Smorgasbord, what did you think of Us? Give us your rating.
I definitely think that Get Out was a more polished product from Jordan Peele. That said, this movie is a lot more experimental, and I think, honestly, parts of it are a lot more fun because of just how out there it is. There's definitely some things I want to talk about spoiler-wise that not so much gripes, not so much issues, but definitely just little things that made me think, in a critical sense rather than a I don't get what's going on sense. So I'm going to stick with a plush recliner on this one. Definitely recommend it, but if you're not a horror fan, you just gotta mentally prepare for the first half of this movie for sure. But on performances alone, makes for a unique experience that I don't think you're going to get from any other movie. So definitely recommended it. Definitely looking forward to the next projects from Jordan Peele. I appreciate him having a little bit of humor in for me to kind of just diffuse the situation and let me like stop the jitters. I had the pleasure of seeing this in Harlem, where I had a wonderful audience that really liked all the jokes, and that helped me remember that, hey, I'm in a movie theater, supposed to be having a good time. And I did.
So, in your case, see it with a support group.
Support group, exactly.
Jake?
Actually, yeah, I saw it with, like I said, a few friends, and one of them, during the initial, it's not a spoiler, during the initial home invasion scene, one of my friends from 2 seats down went, Jake, I hate you. And I was like, good. It means the movie's having an effect. Yeah, this, I would say bag of popcorn moniker, because this is a good movie, an intense movie. You should see it on the big screen. And audience members, like, there were definitely some, ooh, what are you doing? Oh my God, get the hell out. And the jokes were also laugh-worthy. Just generally worth seeing in theaters. But as far as rating goes, I'm teetering. It's not a perfect movie, but what it does really well. And honestly, I connected with this movie on a psychological level in a way I did not expect. And I think it will benefit from rewatches. For now, because it's not quite perfect, I think I am going to go like the highest end plush recliner, but it's got potential for Royal Throne. It's close for me, truthfully. It's really close.
Wow.
Well, I'm kind of glad that we're all on the same page that we really like this movie, because it's going to be exhausting enough to talk about the symbolism. I don't want to be arguing with you guys too. A lot of it's going to have to go towards the specific intricacies and the theories that we have. This movie it hits it out of the park. Like, there's no other way to really say it. It's so intelligent. It's so creepy. It's just such a memorable, interesting piece of art, beyond just like a really great, entertaining, fun time at the movies. It doesn't have the immediate satisfaction of Get Out. Get Out, you can tell this movie will have instant classic recognizability across millions of people. Everybody connected with Get Out on some kind of level. Some people will be alienated by Us, because you spend a lot of the time wondering really what's happening, at least the first time through, and that kind of lessens the entertainment impact at points. There's also some story choices that we'll get into that I just think they could have found a different way to do it, and for that, it's not quite as good as his first effort. However, this is a great movie, without a doubt. Yeah. It's a plush recliner worth sharing with a twin.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a big enough plush recliner that you can sort. It's a couch. That's a couch.
There you go.
So 3 plush recliners with a couple of people teetering a little higher. Interesting. We've got a lot to talk about. If you have not seen Us, please do not join us in the spoiler section. Like, you probably shouldn't even watch the trailers at this point. Like, just go see the movie.
Yeah.
If you have seen Us, hopefully you have, join us in our spoiler section.
Whoa! Oh, spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Excuse me! Spoiler alert!
So we'll get into the minutia of all the little symbolism things in here, but Jake, just generally, what is this movie about?
So from my takeaway after sitting with it from a couple days, all of us have a dark side, or as Us calls it, a shadow side. Parts of us we don't like, we don't want to acknowledge, we don't want to address. There's also parts of us that could be traumatized or anxious or depressed, and we suppress them downward. We don't like to think about it. We don't like to talk about it. Those memories can get suppressed, and your brain can shut them out and not talk about it. Everybody's got sides of them that have to do with this, whether severe or not. And Us kind of tackles that on a very personal and yet large scale at the same time. So the family trying to kill them is supposed to be their darker sides coming out. The movie reveals to us that everybody has one. What you kind of have to go along with is that they are living in these thousands of miles of tunnels underground. That's where it gets Hitchcockian. If you can go with that, excellent, you're going to have no problem. But they all come out, and they're all the darker sides of us living underground. They're trying to come out and kill us and replace us. And at the end of the movie, it is said that they are literally touching arms and spreading across the country, which I think Peele is saying, whether you're Republican, Democrat, hard left, hard right, all of us are a little on edge at this crazy time in the country. And a lot of people's edginess and darker sides can be coming out. And we all have sides that we have that we don't like, we don't want to look at. And I think that's, in a nutshell, kind of what he's getting at. That's what I got from a psychological metaphor.
Right. I was there with you when I first saw the movie on the micro level. The idea of our own insecurities and our own vices coming back to literally kill us and destroy us.
Right.
So I should have put this together, because there's a direct line where Lupita Nyong'o's alter ego Red goes, "We are America." And I was like, that's kind of weird. What are we talking about?
Yeah, literally everybody in the theater went, what?
Yeah. I was like, that was kind of out of place.
But it adds up.
But like, that's as overt as it could possibly get.
This is fascinating to me because I get those themes are in there, but the main takeaway that I got out of this was more about like class struggles. A whole theme throughout this entire movie is wealth versus poverty. You know, like the main family we follow is decidedly middle class, and they're trying to impress the higher class family.
Right, Elizabeth Moss's character and stuff.
And you could argue that the entire underground is the lower class. And you could say the sea to shining sea moment is the fact that a large chunk of the people in the US are dealing with poverty and literally resorting to violence to get out of poverty. I think there's a lot to unpack there.
That checks out too.
That's fascinating too, because it works on the doppelganger level, but it also works with the main characters. Like Winston Duke and Lupita Nyong'o are clearly just friends with Elizabeth Moss's character and Tim Heidecker's characters just because they've been
even
friends.
hesitantly friends. They're not like
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's a passive aggressive thing. It's a black family, a middle class black family with a clearly rich white family, and the white family at points is shoving things in their face, not even meaning to be.
I got some work done.
Right.
Elizabeth Moss's character talking about her plastic surgery. Winston Duke talking about how Tim Heidecker's character was kind of shoving their new car in their face. That works on multiple levels, but I never went there. You know what I mean? I thought about it when we actually see their house. I never went there as far as the metaphor goes. I stuck more to what Jake was talking about with the symbolism of the duality.
You know what's interesting that I took out of the higher end family? For me, I got out of that was they struggled to defeat their own counterparts. Like they were faced with running and, you know, they're handcuffed to tables at first. They're chased down at first. They're handicapped at first. But when it comes to facing the white family's counterparts, they kind of deal with them and handle them no problem. So what I got out of that is it's hard to look inward and look at our own negative self-traits and our own negative qualities, but we can pinpoint them in other people, no problem. It's easy to judge others.
And rip people apart, no problem. Interesting.
Yeah, it's easy to judge others. So for them, killing the white family's counterparts and struggling to kill their own, that's where I went with that. But honestly, everything that you said, Nate, checks out as well. What a complex story.
Yeah. We all have these different perspectives. Knowing what the movie was about going in a second time, the moments of symbolism, he threads these things so beautifully. There's holding hands. The Hands Across America thing, of course, that's the big, powerful final image, but it's throughout the entire movie. Obviously, it's the first thing we see on TV.
Yep.
That beautiful first push into the TV. It's on the back of their car when they're driving. When she's at child therapy, she's putting these animals together in a row. The mom and dad at child therapy don't hold hands. Like, he reaches for it, she pulls away. There's a painting on Jason's wall with them holding hands. Jason and Adelaide's thing to do is to hold hands to calm each other down.
Yeah, Jesus.
Like, it's just nonstop when you're like, oh my God. Like, he did this.
Yeah, and this is why the things like that is where I'm teetering on a royal throne, because I don't think it's perfect, but man, does he accomplish a lot.
Let's get a little bit more general, more macro here, if you will. What do we think about the main twist that Adelaide and Red have switched places and have been living each other's lives?
I was iffy at first, but after kind of sitting with it for a bit, I like it.
I think it checks out to what you were saying, Jake, about the PTSD and the repression thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I was iffy at first, but then once I started thinking about it more, I was like, actually, no, that works out.
Me too. Like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know about this. And then, again, when you go back and revisit it, it's perfect. It makes so much sense.
My biggest quirk with the movie, if you will, just imagine that this was a sci-fi movie instead of a horror movie. I feel like as an audience, we'd want more explanation into why did the government make these body doubles? Why is only Lupita Nyong'o's character properly tethered, where they could actually both have their own souls rather than be puppets like all the other doppelgangers had? The little kid Jason, his doppelganger literally mirrors him whenever he wants to, when the other doppelgangers don't, and they kill their masters, so to speak. There's a lot of those kinds of choices throughout the movie that if this was a sci-fi movie, I feel like the audience wouldn't let it get away. But because it's a horror movie and the audience is kind of supposed to be afraid of the unknown and not understand the rules, especially for the first half of the movie, but even toward the finale of the movie, to not fully understand what's going on, I don't know if that's Jordan Peele taking advantage of the genre and saying, I don't have to explain this because it's a horror movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there, because I had those moments at points, especially in that big moment you're talking about where Jason's able to take out Pluto by just making him walk backwards, but yet we've never really seen that with any of the other doppelgangers. Mm-hmm. So there's like inconsistencies like that that are throughout it that I kind of just went with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you can because it's a horror movie, and that's why I'm not trying to qualify it as a mistake on the movie or a laziness on Jordan Peele's side. I just think it's interesting that the genre changes how the audience reacts to those kinds of inconsistencies.
I noticed some of that too. Like, we do just kind of have to believe that there are millions of clones living underground that are connected to us somehow just because.
Right.
I've also thought that kind of idea is more accepted back when Hitchcock was popular. Like, nowadays, that stuff doesn't sit as well with audiences. We want more explanations. Where back then, we would just go, wow, how crazy is that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you can tap into the old mindset and just kind of go, okay, maybe I don't quite get everything. Maybe not everything has an explanation, but this all still checks out. You'll go with the movie better.
Right.
I don't necessarily have all the answers either. Why certain ones act the way that they do versus others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for it per se. So I didn't have too much of a gripe with that. If I had one big problem with the movie, and I wouldn't even call it a huge problem, I thought that the storytelling in the second act gets really repetitive. Like, so for the first part, we have the home invasion. Winston Duke's doppelganger takes him out on the boat. Lupita's doppelganger handcuffs Hurts, and then the kids are left to fend for themselves. Then they go to the White family's house. Lupita gets handcuffed again. Winston Duke ends up on a boat again with a doppelganger, and the kids are left to fend for themselves. Like, that repetition right there, I was like, didn't we just do this? How do we have two separate boat sequences? I just wish there was a little bit more variety there. Because that also leads to one of my favorite segments in the film, which is the fuck the police segment. That sequence and the use of music in that sequence, which I think there's symbolism in the use of songs that they pick, Good Vibrations, very white song, the murder anthem for these white characters versus Fuck the Police, which is, of course, a big black empowerment anthem, which is like, the police ain't coming, put this matter into your home hands and take control.
Yeah, that was a fun moment.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite sequence of the film. But I just thought, like, the way we got there was a little bit like deja vu.
I actually didn't think about that. Part of me says, I wonder if there's just a reason we're missing, and part of me wonders if that's just how we wanted it and there is no reason. You know, I'm not sure. Because there are so many very particular details that make me go, maybe he did have a reason that I'm not catching, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about cinematography of mirrors and glass and stuff like that, because we talk about self-reflection.
Oh, yeah.
And this, again, this is all throughout it. We have obviously the first shot with the TV, shots through car windows.
The House of Mirrors.
Yeah, the House of Mirrors is the most obvious one. The mirror down in the dance studio, Lupita's big monologue before all the stuff goes down where she's just facing into the reflection.
Yeah.
That shot up close with Lupita's doppelganger as she approaches slowly, that was a really, like, a weird out-of-focus shot where Lupita's doppelganger's right there. Just creativity through filmmaking is so fascinating here.
After this movie, after seeing Get Out and Us now, I would love to sit down and have a beer with Jordan Peele and be like, all right, you're smarter than people think. What's going on with your head? What's in there?
It's crazy that just because he came from comedy, people are assuming that he's not an artist. And if anything, he's more of it, because you have to land your punches so much more timely with comedy than any other kind of movie. Like, in a drama, your actor just needs to say his line correctly, and as long as he follows the script, he's good. With comedy, you have to time that. With horror, you have to time that.
Horror is all about timing with jump scares. Yeah, slowly escalating tension. There's a lot of that in this movie. Like, the whole the whole final battle is just tension.
Basically, from the first breaking and entering scene, it's tense to some extent.
Yeah, those final moments with Lupita and her doppelganger, it's like one long ballet.
They were going for that, obviously.
But they set up the dance metaphor, and then the music just takes them back and forth. I just love the way the whole thing was choreographed.
There's a lot of symbolism in this movie altogether. When she is trying to finally kill her red doppelganger for kidnapping the son, she's just barely missing, swinging and missing, swinging and missing, swinging and missing, over and over and over again. And I actually thought that's not just nothing. And I think that was him saying, you know, we can often try and look inward. The solution to our problem, or solution to PTSD, or, you know, whatever negative trait we have about us that we don't want to see, could be right in front of us the whole time. And we'll swing and miss over and over again.
I think it's no coincidence that each person kills their own doppelganger. Like, nobody steps in and takes out the other one.
Yes, absolutely. Truthfully, I think there's something to be said about the parental roles. Like, when Lupita is a little girl in the beginning, her parents are clearly just not great parents. The dad is not exactly sober, not paying attention. The mom is just nagging him the whole time and mad about their relationship. She blames him for her PTSD. He doesn't take the responsibility. The moment at the end where Lupita's character remembers that she was switched and the PTSD kicks in and she solves it, her son, Jason, looks up at her as if he realizes. And I think that's supposed to be carried on. Like, her parents weren't exactly great with her, even though they might have tried. She got PTSD. She did everything she could have to save her son, and ultimately, he killed his own version of himself. That kid's gonna have PTSD as well. I think he's kind of getting...
And was abducted by his mother.
Right. No matter how much they wanted to try and save and care for their child, learned behaviors and DNA will be inherited if you want to get hereditary about it.
Or even the fact that just mental illnesses affect everyone in the family.
Yeah, that way too. I think that was definitely something to be said in the end when Jason looks up at her. Like, in a good way, I had like a psychological field day with this over the last few days.
Right. And guys, I hate to be the party pooper here, but we have to start wrapping up here.
I know, we're so going so long.
We could go all day on this, but there's not much more we can say that a lot of like theoretical articles haven't said already. So I mean, we can touch on a few here on our wrap-ups about a couple of the other symbolism things that we want to talk about. So let's get into our final thoughts here on Us.
Alrighty. I said this for our Get Out freeze frame as well, but even just on basis of originality in screenplay, in art direction, and just overall tone and concept, this movie has so much to offer that you won't get out of any other movie. And if it can get a guy like me who hates horror, doesn't like being scared, in a theater to go see it once and likely going to see it again, you know you have a good movie on your hands. Jordan Peele knocks it out of the park again. Is it perfect? No. It's still a plush recliner, but it does so much right, and the direction is just so fresh and unique that I can't do anything but recommend it to anyone who wants to give it a shot. Acting, again, phenomenal. I just want to keep on dumping praise on Lupita Nyong'o and the whole rest of the cast. Everyone does a great job with 2 roles each, and they completely sell this incredibly chaotic, messy, bloody, dark world. It's really cool and really something to see.
Jake?
Yeah, I think I've done plenty of talking because I was very pleased with this movie. Even little gripes that I normally have with horror movies, I didn't have with this. Like the typical, you fall when you're running away, or you enter the dark basement completely alone for no reason. Like, there really wasn't a lot of that. And if there was, it kind of added up. Like, they sensibly cripple Winston Duke's character in the beginning by taking the bat away from him and hit him in the knees. Like, they set up a lot of stuff that adds up and makes sense. And I don't know, even the things I would normally have problems with, I didn't really. And then from a social commentary, psychological aspect, just top to bottom, there's so much to unpack about this movie. I was very happy with it. Top tier plus recliner, maybe even Royal Throne upon rewatch. I was very pleased. Favorite of the year for now. If you can handle a little horror and a little social commentary challenge, definitely go watch it. This was something.
Scissors, rabbits, a spider, a blue dot on a blanket, the verse Jeremiah 11:11, Home Alone, Jaws. These are all things that seem like they have nothing to do with each other, yet are extremely important to how good Us is. And those are things we have not even touched on, but they all inform these metaphors and these densely intricate little things that Jordan Peele has put in this film. It's not a perfect movie. It's a little messy, but some of the messiest movies are some of the best movies. They're the ones that are ambitious. They think big. And this movie swings for the fences in ways that a lot of horror movies just can't do. I'm glad he was not content with just kind of remaking Get Out. He found a different message and a different way to tell that story and still make it really entertaining. Absolutely go see this movie. It's one of the forefront films of the year so far, obviously. And it's among some of the best in the horror genre at a time where the horror genre is peaking really well. Absolutely go see this movie. 3 really strong recommendations as we finish this review of Us and this part of the Middle Seats podcast. Before we go, Nate Lungarini, where can they find us on the internet?
Alrighty, here's how you can get in touch with us. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Middle Seats. You can also listen to us on the go on all your podcast platforms, including SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. For questions, comments, and updates on the show, keep an eye on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at The Middle Seats. And if you like what you hear and you want to see more content, let us know and spread the word.
We talked about Jordan Peele's other horror movie, Get Out. You can see that on our YouTube channel right now, that discussion. Next time on the Middle Seats podcast, we'll be talking about the latest film from the DC Extended Universe, Shazam. That'll do it for us tonight. For Nate Longrini and Jake Hensler, I'm Andrew Auger. Keep that seat warm, everyone. We'll be back soon.